All right, so I just did the test. You, I didn't really talk during the audio at all, but here's the voltage recovering up here. So you can see during the test, it was getting down to the low 12s. That's the car was off. There was no alternator helping the charge. There was nothing else. It was just the Headway battery. So you can see it creeping back up. I believe the test started at like 13.8 volts. So, and during the test, here's where my current reading was down at the bottom. So, I saw peaks of around 60 amps or so. Um, Maybe there was some that were a little higher, but the bass wasn't a uh, constant bass note. So you could see though that with the music, even on the low bass notes where the sub was playing, the loudest and all that, the battery's still creeping up in voltage. So it does hold its capacity. It does do well on with the system that I have now. It would be perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure it would be able to have a more stable voltage closer to 13 volts. Um, I don't know exactly how much watts that would be. The ballpark, it would be like maybe 600 watts, like five to 700 watts on my sub. Like I said, no alternator help or anything, and with the bass not being constant, it holds up fine, and it's right about gonna get to 13.3 volts. So the battery does hold its own. It does well. It has a lot of space to make a lot of amp or electronics connections. So here's the wire coming from my what would be my alternator, but I didn't end up using my car or turning it on. These smaller 4-gauge wires are to my high amps, which I disabled because they're not going to pull that much current regardless. Everything is turned down for low power, so you probably wouldn't see much coming from them. And then these two wires are going to my subwoofer amp, so that's 0 gauge. And then over here, that's my chassis ground. The grounds for my two high amps, and then these two grounds are for my subwoofer amp also. And I just connected these. This black lead goes to this ring terminal just to get a voltage reading. That's feeding into that meter right there. And another ring terminal, same thing, got the positive going to that voltmeter, and this clamp meter is going down to this voltmeter. So yeah, everything looks good. If you don't have anything any alternator charging it, then this battery is just gonna go down on its own to its like nominal voltage. These are really strong down in the 12 volt range, so that's actually like really standard and normal. The 13, anything you see above like 13 volts, 13 and a half volts is kind of like a surface charge. It'll do fine for kind of low power draw. It'll keep that voltage, but once you get like into 60 amps, 100 amps, 200 amps, getting up in current, then it's gonna dip down to the 12s. So it's perfectly fine to run with your car and charge it up with your alternator. So it started raining right now, and luckily it let up, so I was able to install the fuse. So there's the fuse that I have going to the back for the battery, and that's running to my stock alternator. My electrical is all stock, alternator is all stock, and I even still have my stock battery right there. See a little corrosion forming, but I just clean it off every other day that I have to. Yeah, so like I said, all stock battery, everything's hooked up. So I'll go ahead and start my car. Go ahead and starting my car. That's just my belt squeal. Probably got a little wet or something, so it'll go away in a second once it warms up. And you can see the battery back here charging at 13.6. There's very little amp draw, so I'll go ahead and put it on the so you can see that's going to my alternator, and it's not really drawing much current because it's basically charged up already, and it's bounced back up to 13.7, about 13.8. Go ahead and round up. So yeah, everything hooked up fine, running fine. You see my car's on. Belt stopped squealing finally. Whenever it's cold out, it squeals, so gotta get that fixed and tightened up anyways. Do some maintenance, but yeah, car's on and good. I can go ahead and turn up my volume.